Okay, good. Okay. Yes, good. All right. We've been learning here. Good morning, everyone. First of all, we've been learning in the speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1991 about the dividing and the conquering of the land of Israel, and why that's such a the central factor and central the topic in Judaism. Why is it so important? And make it a world conquest. Why conquer the whole world? God owns the whole world, so we should conquer the whole. No, that's not the Jewish people. They had to conquer the land of Israel. They had to conquer the land of Israel, and to a certain degree, they had to do it themselves. In other words, they had to go themselves and conquer the land of Israel. If they would have agreed to go in the time of Moses, as God would have done virtually all the work for them. They would have just had to go in. There were these the special hornets that he sent in, whatever the Tzira. But anyways, in any case, they didn't go in with Moses. They wandered in the desert for 40 years because they refused to enter the land of Israel. So God made them wander. And then after the 40 years, so then they went in. Now they had to fight. Now when they went in, they had to fight. But before both times, whether the failed attempt to convince the Jews to enter or the successful one, the first one was by Moses, and that was not successful. No, the successful one was by Joshua. They sent spies. They sent scouts. So the Rebbe pointed out a lot of difference between these two. A lot of difference. That Joshua sent two, and he sent two that were quiet, that nobody knew about, and that they didn't survey the whole land of Israel. They stayed a very short amount of time, only the city of Jericho. And Moses, he sent 12, and the 12 didn't really succeed. And they spent 40 days looking around the whole land of Israel and surveying the whole entire place. So the Rebbe says, okay, first of all, let's understand something. Whatever is written in the Torah is inside of us. So the idea of conquering the land of Israel was not just a one-time thing. And it was not limited just to be a religious thing, but it was reality thing. It was the whole idea is deciding what reality is. Is reality really determined and created by God, or is reality just sort of there? It's just sort of there. So the idea of the Jews conquering a part of the world is to show that both are true. Reality is really here. It's really here. It really is. But it has to be conquered by God. In other words, God, he's the one that creates everything. What does it mean conquering? He's already creating everything. It's called the king of the universe, God. He says we have to reveal it. The Jewish people have to reveal it. In other words, we have to basically leave the world the way it is, but reveal a whole new dimension of meaning in every detail of the world. And that's the whole idea of holiness. Holiness means you reveal godliness in the world. You reveal godliness in the world. You reveal that the world is being created. You reveal that everything is tremendously, infinitely important, every detail. And things have to be used a little bit different way, but the main thing is with a different attitude. And that was the idea of the Jews entering the land of Israel. By entering the land of Israel, it shows that there's one country, one area of land that's actually advertising that it's being created by God. Same thing as the Holy Temple. Holy Temple was a building that was advertising that all buildings are made by God. And the Jews are people which advertise that all people are being made by God. That's it. There's two ways of doing it. One way of doing it is how Moses tried to do it with the 12. And the other way of doing it is what Joshua did, and that's by means of two. He said the way that Moses did it, everything was divided. There were 12 because there were 12 tribes, and each one of the spies that Moses sent represented a different facet of human personality, of Jewish personality, of a different way of serving God, each and every one. And the land also was uh, conducive to 12 different types of nature. That's why they divided the land up eventually. They divided up into 12 portions. Each was fitting to that tribe that lived there. Oh, but each of the so that was Moses. He sent it with all these details, which is not the case. Joshua, he sent in two, and two is indicating no details, just one thing: serving God. Whatever God says, I'll do. Serving God only from willpower. Whatever God says, that's what I'll do. I'll take orders like a soldier. And therefore, he only sent in two, because two, when a person serves God or does anything in that way, like a soldier does, there's only two things he has to remember: what yes to do and what not to do. Right? Okay. So he said, therefore, the whole idea is, let's see where we'll get up to here. Oh.
Hello?
Yes. Hello, I hear you.
Hear me now. Oh, you hear me now.
Oh, I hear you. Amazing.
Oh, wow.
This is just amazing. The deaf will hear, the blind will see, the crippled walk. We're experiencing a little bit of that right now. Amazing. Okay, here we go. Okay, so um, okay, so he said, who are the ones that Joshua sent in? Remember, we said that who are the ones that Joshua sent in? Who are these two spies? Who are the two spies? It doesn't say. It doesn't say in the Torah, in the book of Joshua, or anywhere else in the Torah. It doesn't say who the people were that he sent in. There was only two of them, and a list of their names. What's so? It says because they went in quietly. Their whole idea was quietly. That's this idea of serving God from will, is that you do it quietly. You don't care who knows about it. It's sort of speak like you put your personality to one side and you just say, okay, whatever you want, God, like a soldier. But soldiers go to boot camp, whatever, because they have a job, they do the job. That was Joshua. So who are the spies that he sent in? It says one of those spies was Pinchas, and one of the spies was Kalev. Well, Kalev, he already had experience. He was one of the 12 people that were sent by Moses previously, 40 years earlier. But Pinchas, why did he go? Because Pinchas, he was from the tribe of Levi. And the Levites, according to the way Moses sent in, right, that they didn't have a portion in the land of Israel. It says in the Torah that the Levites don't have a portion in the land of Israel. But in the days of the Mashiach, they will have a portion in the land of Israel. And the reason is because in the days of Mashiach, what's going to be stressed is unity. The Jewish people will receive the land of Israel because they're Jews, not because of any of their nature or their abilities, because they're Jews. God chose them, and God chose them and gave them the land of Israel. And that's going to be represented by says that in the future, the land of Israel will be divided into 13. And the number 13 is the numerical value 1. So we see by the Jewish people that there's two aspects, and the main one that's going to be stressed in the days of the Mashiach is unity. In Moses, it was stressed diversity. Each one of the 12 tribes had something unique that none of the other tribes had. And same thing with every Jew. Every Jew is unique. And same thing with every human being. Every human being is unique and different. But the main thing that's going to be stressed in the days of the Mashiach will be unity. Not that the unity will, wipe out all differences and everyone's going to be just like zombies, or lobotomized or something with no personalities. No, everyone will have personalities, but the dominant thing in everyone will be unity. I am lucky to be created by God. I am grateful to the Creator. The world belongs to the Creator. It doesn't belong to me. That's 13. That's the number 1. We'll see the oneness of God everywhere. It says, we did this last time. We'll go over it again. Dividing up the land of Israel in the future will be in a way that God, he's going to divide the land up himself. Like it says, these are the divisions. It's in Ezekiel, right here. It's in Ezekiel, in Ezekiel. It says, these are the divisions, says God. that in the future, so this is understood, that also this dividing up of the land, it will be in a way of unity. In other words, there'll be 13 different portions of the land. It says all the tribes are going to come back. And then Mashiach is going to bring all the tribes back. He's going to bring all the Jews back, Jews that don't even know that they're Jews. And the land will be divided up into 13. It says, therefore, Loka Chaluka Shel Olam Hazeh, not like the division that was up to the time of Mashiach, will be the division in the time of the land of Israel in the days of the Mashiach. Nowadays, a person has a field, etc., etc., etc. Each person has his one special thing. In the future, everybody's going to have everything. Everyone is going to have everything. Remember, we did this yesterday. So they're all going to be separate, but they're all going to be included. The main thing is going to be the inclusion of everyone. The explanation is just like this, that nowadays, the world is refined by means of godliness, which is relevant to the world. Therefore, this is a level of godliness which is commensurate to the world. It's a level of godliness which is different each and every place. After all, God is creating everything, and He's creating everything different. And in the future, after the world is already refined, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, by the way, this has already happened. The world, just 1 second, here we go. He said the world has already been sufficiently refined. So he said that after everything is, then the refinement of the world will be, the revelation of godliness in the world will not just be a level of godliness which is close to the world, so godliness which is, so to speak, above the world, a little bit above spiritual. In the future, it's going to be a level of godliness which will be totally above even the spiritual, incomprehensible even to the angels, right? Like the angels now are saying, holy, holy, that's going to be revealed here. Achdus Peshuta, simple oneness of God. In simple language, what this is saying is that we don't realize what a miracle reality is. We don't realize what a miracle reality is. He said, in the time when the Holy Temple was here and King Solomon, etc., then people had a little bit of appreciation of what God is, because it was a level of God that was creating everybody. But in the future, it's going to be even a higher level of godliness that will be something not even relevant to understanding, which that's the truth right now. We don't understand what reality is, right? The scientists don't know what is reality, what is mass, what is energy. They know what these things do. What is electricity? What is life? What is a soul? They know what these things do. They know the qualities of them, but what they are in their essence, they don't know what it is. What is being? What is nothingness? And by means of the oneness of the Jewish people, that the Jewish people will all be in this level of Levi. It says not Levi, like the Maimonides says, that the Levi was devoted to serving God. They didn't get a portion of the land of Israel. They were devoted to serving God. It says the Rambam, not just the tribe of Levi alone, but every human being, that he decides that he wants to serve the Creator, so he can be made holy of holies, and God will be his portion forever and ever. Just like the Kohanim and the Leviim merited in the time of the temple, so everyone will be devoted to God all the time. The butcher and the baker and the whatever it is, and the automobile maker and everybody, they'll all be revealing godliness, the most simple person. And says it all depends on our attitude. And our attitude will put new soul into our deeds. In more detail, this is the difference between what it means the world will be filled with the knowledge of God, like the Rambam says, and the world will be filled with the knowledge of God like water fills the ocean. That's what, remember, we learned this yesterday. So the world, in the days of the Moshiach, it says the world will be filled with the knowledge of God. It's a sentence from Isaiah. Near the beginning of Isaiah, let's see where it says, 31 here, it says, where is it? It doesn't bring that. It's somewhere in the beginning, near the beginning of Isaiah. The world will be filled with, chapter Yud Aleph, chapter 11. It says the world will be filled with a knowledge of God like water. So that's enough. The world will be filled with the knowledge of God. And Isaiah adds on, like water fills the ocean. What's the difference between them? So the world was filled with the knowledge of God. This means that there will be a world and that the world will be filled with the knowledge of God. Why? Because it's a level of godliness which was sort of close to the world. But when, in other words, so the differences will still be dominant. It'll be godliness, the world, but we'll feel that it's godliness, the godliness that's creating the world. When we say that the world is going to be filled with godliness, like water fills the ocean, that's a higher level of godliness. That the existence of the world will be covered completely by the water of connection to God, awareness of God. The world will feel godliness. Why? Because it's going to be a level of godliness which is above the world. In other words, the essence of the Creator. So we have no idea what reality is and how incredibly important this world, physical world, is to God. Right? When there was the Holy Temple, we sort of felt it. We sort of felt it. But in the days of the Moshiach, it's going to be just so obvious, right? Just like nowadays, it's obvious that we exist. It's going to be even more obvious in the days of the Moshiach that God exists, that God is creating us. And that's the level of Torah. That's the pure essence of the Torah. That's the wisdom of God. And that is drawn down and revealed into the world, is recognized and known that the whole entire world is just the revelation of God's wisdom. Like it says, Kulam b'chachma asisa. Like the rabbis say, everything that God created in the world, he only created for his glory. And what is his glory? Is the Torah. So we'll see that instead of the Torah being a very spiritual book and being able to have an effect on every aspect of the world, we'll see that the whole world only exists in the merit of the wisdom of the Torah and the laws of the Torah, the words of the Torah, the letters of the Torah. The language of the Maimonides, right in the beginning of his book, the Yad HaChazakah, he says the foundation of all foundations and the pillar of wisdom is to know that there is a first existence, and from this first existence, all being comes. That's what the Torah says. There's nothing except for God. So that's two levels. The whole world is being created by God, and that's what the Torah says because it comes from the Torah. That's what we can say, that the preparation for revealing the oneness of the land, when the land will be divided into 13, that's the gate of Levi will be added, is by means of this level of unity of the Jewish people in the Torah. The beginning of, and that was begun by Joshua. Joshua, he was the one that sent Pinchas, who was the number 13. He comes from the tribe of Levi. That he added on Moses. Moses was 12. That's the divisions, how the world is all divided up. And that God is creating the divisions. But Joshua sent the spy, he spent also a Pinchas, indicating the future revelation is going to be something greater than what Moses did. It'll be pure oneness from the essence of oneness of God, above all division. That'll be revealed in every detail of the world. That's Levi. Levi was the number 13. Okay. According to what we said before, that the whole idea of sending the spies, whether we're talking about the spies of Moses or in even a higher level, the spies of Joshua, because Joshua represents this higher unity, is stressed, both of them stress the same thing: refining, purifying, clarifying the world, and mainly by the unity of the Jewish people and the Torah. So we can explain also the connection and between the spies and tzitzit. That's at the end of this week's Torah portion, is the commandment of tzitzit. First of all, let's explain what is this commandment of tzitzit. Even though the commandment of tzitzit is one individual commandment, but nevertheless it says that it is equal to all of the commandments. As it says in this week, the end of this week's portion, it says, I'm giving you tzitzit and you should see it. You should see the commandment, or you should see the blue strand, it says, and remember all the commandments of God. And we said before, why? Because the word tzitzit is the numerical value of 600, and the strands and the knots are another 13. So it comes out 613. That's the commandments. Says the Rebbe, at first glance, it's not so understandable. Since this commandment and all the commandments are divided, and all the commandments are different different uh, aspects of God's will. So how we should act in the world according to how God divided up the world and man and the commandments, right? And you don't eat matzah, the commandment of matzah, you don't eat matzah any day of the year except for Passover. But you don't have to fast. It's not forbidden to fast from the Torah on any day except for Yom Kippur, right? The rabbis added other fast days. And every commandment, right? You can only get married to certain people. Marriage is only to a female. She's not married. If you're a Kohen, it has to be a certain more the limitations. All the commandments are individual expressions of God's will in the world. So how can it possibly be that one commandment contains all the commandments? The explanation is this: that even in the commandments, which are commandments to people, how they should deal in the world, and everything is different. The true essence of the commandments is that they are commandments of the Torah. They're the wisdom of God. Therefore, there is one common factor, and that is God. That God, his will and his wisdom is stressed in the Torah. So all the commandments are different externally, but internally, you're just doing what God wants. And this is especially noticeable in the commandment of tzitzit. It says, you will see them and you will remember all of the commandments of God. That by means of seeing the tzitzit, like we said before, that the number, the gematria of the word tzitzit is 600, and the 8 strands together with the 5 knots that we make on the tzitzit comes out to be 360. Here's the knots, see? There's the knots, got a good picture there. And here's the strings. Here's the strings. There's 8 strings, right? 8 strings. So it says that comes out to be 613. So from that, we can see that there's one point. 613 is all like one big commandment, doing what God wants. In chapter the 33 of the Tanya, so it says that there's 613 commandments, and that came along Habakkuk, the prophet Habakkuk, and he said that there's only one commandment. What's the commandment? A righteous person lives by faith. Because when you're doing the commandments, you're really only doing one thing. There's all sorts of details, but it's one thing, just like a human being, right? Your body is all divided up. Everything is divided. Every vein, every blood vessel, every organ, every limb is different, but it's all part of one person. It's a one unity. The same thing, the commandments are all different, but they're all part of one big body, so to speak, of God's will. And this is especially stressed in tzitzit. Why? Because tzitzit is drawn down into all the other commandments. That the reason that we're doing them, not just because they're different and they're individual and we're religious people and we do every detail very carefully, that's also true. But the main point is because of the unity which is in them, that you should remember and do all the commandments. That doing all the commandments should be in a way of my commandments. It's as though you're doing one big commandment. And that's the whole idea of sending the 12 tribes, the 12 spies, in order to survey the land of Israel. That's the end of this. This is ended by this paragraph about tzitzit at the very end. That also the service of serving God in an individual, unique way, which is symbolized by each and every one of the 12 tribes. And each one of the 12 tribes had to refine in his own individual way the earth, as it has to be united. When you're in the world and you're serving God in your unique way, right? You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a speaker, you're a teacher, whatever you do in the world, it has to be permeated with this feeling of oneness of the Jews and the Torah. That's above any division. Like it's stressed in the fact that the Nasi, that the leader of every tribe, Moses sent the leader of every tribe to survey the land of Israel. In other words, even Moses, when he sent them, he sent the heads of all the tribes. So on one hand, they were all different, but on the other hand, they all had one thing in common. They were the heads of the tribes. Each one was his tribe. If you want to say that the one thing they had in common was the fact that God made them, each one, unique. That's what they had in common. They're all created by God and all created unique, and that's a common factor by all of them. It's like if you buy a puzzle, you buy a puzzle from a store. They used to have these. Remember when we were younger, you had a puzzle, 500 pieces, 7,000 pieces, right? Little kids, they're like, 3 years old, puzzle, 10 pieces, 3 pieces, you have to put the square thing into the square hole. But afterwards, there's a puzzle, 2,000 pieces. People put puzzles together, they put them on their wall, put them in a frame, puzzles. But each one of those little pieces, they have one thing in common. It's part of this big picture. If the piece is missing, it affects the whole entire puzzle. So it's the same thing with the Jewish people, and in fact, with all of mankind, with all the world. Every detail is somehow or other essential to this oneness. According to this, now we can understand the teaching of what we can learn, me and you, what we can learn about each and every Jew. Now, again, we have to stress again, the Jewish people are the chosen people. God chose the Jewish people to advertise that there's God, or in simple language, to tell all humanity how much God loves them. That God is creating every person, and He's creating them every person constantly, and He's enlivening everyone, and He's providing for everyone constantly, every single instant. God is infinitely close to every human being, and that the Jewish people are chosen to do this, to show that the world is not just an accident, it's being created by God every instant. But first of all, the Jews have to get themselves together. And that's the idea of Moses sending the spies and what we can learn from it. Namely, what can we learn from it? Unity. The unity of the Jewish people and the unity of the Jewish people with the Torah. Also, the individual service of every single Jew according to how they're divided up, including and especially the idea of Ledatcha. The God said to Moses, send the spies according to your opinion. Moses said to God, should I send these spies or not? The Jewish people want. And God said, okay, I'm going to do something new. Ready? You decide. I decide. I want a commandment, God. That's the commandment. My commandment is you decide. L'datcha. Ikr mitzius adam. That's the whole essence of a man, that he decides. The essence of man is free will. And ein deoteun shavos. It says also the decisions that people make are not equal, are not the same. People want different things. People have different desires and different natures. This person likes this person doesn't like this. Everybody has a little bit of a different personality. He says this is very important. God made everyone with a different importance so that everyone will choose themselves. No one will be forced. It has to be, a person has to be the power of choice, the uniqueness of every single Jew. We're talking about Jews first here, has to be permeated with this one feeling of unity, which is above any division. Like it's expressed in loving every Jew and the uniting of every Jew. So let's start off with the Jews first. Everyone's different. A lot of people are going to disagree with me. That's okay. That's what God meant. And it could be that they're wrong. Could be that I'm wrong. And it could be that they're not going to change their opinion and I'm not going to change my opinion. That's the way God created it. But there has to be a basic feeling of God made it this way. God wants it to be this way. And God does not want there to be hatred. God wants us to accept the differences of other people and argue it out. You can't do according to everybody, right? Can't do everything according to everybody. You have to go according to the majority or according to the wisest person or whatever. A person has to understand in his mind and that the necessities of another person are important, and you have to help others to do what is necessary, what they need, whether it's spiritual or physical. Like it says in like it says, what we say is before we daven. We say before we pray in the morning, the Arizal said you should say, but before you start to pray, here I am. I am accepting on myself the commandment of love your brother like yourself. And all the Jewish people are brothers. Or in more detail, regarding to these two details, general of the Jewish people, Yisachar v'Zivulun. It says Yisachar, he sat and learned Torah, and Zvulun, he went and he did business. in addition to the unity, which is by means of all the people that sit and learn the Torah, that the people who sit and learn Torah, they do the commandment of charity. And also the people, which charity is money, that's the thing of Zvulun, that he of Zvulun, right? And also the people who work in business, that's the thing of Zvulun, they should have times of Torah. In other words, unity. Every person appreciates and does a little bit of what other people do, especially the Torah and the commandments. The main thing of Yisachar is learning Torah, but they should also do the commandments and give charity, money, deal with money. And the people that Zvulun, that their main thing is making money, they also have to sit and giving charity. They have to sit also and learn Torah. There has to be unity in every single Jew with the Torah, which is learning, and charity, which is doing. For instance, in giving charity, you have to give charity also to in the merit of someone else and of many other Jews. And there are some Jews that God blessed them with tremendous richness, physical, money in the bank, a lot of zeros in your bank account after the number one. And that they give charity to the merit for all the Jewish people. 1 penny, $1,000, of 10, etc. And you give it for every Jew. May it should only be that there should be a lot of Jews like that. They give charity for the sake of all the Jewish people. And there's other people that learn Torah, that you sit and learn Torah, and you do learn Torah with others in a way of making a lot of pupils. Until mitzvahs of say Torah, it's a positive commandment in the Torah that every wise man in Israel should teach others. I saw someone said there's Jews that are, and the Lubavitcher Jews, generally speaking, their main emphasis is learning Torah. And Chabad puts a big emphasis on going out into the street and making people come close, doing commandments. So I saw one of these the Lubavitcher people that their main thing is learning Torah and big institutions of Torah. Chabad also learns Torah, but that's not with the big stress. The stress is changing the world. So he said, hey, we got to do like Chabad. We sit and we learn all the time. We're very good. Go on the streets and ask a person, come learn Torah. Said, no, you don't think. Said, I do it. This person said, I do it, and you'll be amazed. People are willing to come in to the and they're willing to learn. I said, chance of learning Torah, right? That's what we have to do. That's a very important thing. Whatever your nature is, you're from Breslov, you're from this, from every different type of Jew, but encourage that other Jews to come in also and do commandments, to learn the Torah. We can also add, so that's called loving other Jews, unity of all the Jewish people. We can also add on that this idea of the unity of the Jewish people in the Torah, this is stressed in learning the Rambam, Maimonides, that all the Jewish people can be, like it's the custom we've been doing, the Rebbe started right years ago. Some people learn 3 chapters of a day of the Rambam, you finish once a year. That all the Jewish people unite in learning the whole Torah, because the Maimonides is the only book in the Torah that includes all the laws of the Torah. Every aspect of the Torah he deals with, right? There are some places where people disagree with him and etc. And he has proof for everything he does and basis for everything that he says, right? That's the whole entire Torah. And it includes laws that aren't included in anywhere, the laws of the Holy Temple, the laws that are going to be in the days of the Moshiach. It says, and the main thing is that the unity of the Jewish people in the Torah by means of spreading the teachings of Chassidut, the inside of the Torah, the godliness of the Torah, is stressing only the godliness of the Torah. That's what Chassidut does. Learns only books and books and books only about the godliness which is in the Torah. And godliness which is in the world, and then godliness which is in every Jew, that by means of learning, teaching Chassidut, it is stressed and brought about unity of the inside of every Jew with the inside of God and the inside of the Torah, and bringing it out. As it is now, as it is brought about in a new way in our generation, and especially by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe when he came to America. That's called the lower half of the world. The top half of the world is where the Torah was given. And the bottom half of the world, that's America. That in America, there wasn't the revelation of the giving of the Torah. That all of us, that when the previous Rebbe came to America was in 1940, the previous Rebbe came, that he was the Moses of our generation. From there, it spread out the ideas of Hasidut into all parts of the world. The Rebbe had he sent out the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. He sent out emissaries to the whole entire world. He was the father-in-law of the Rebbe. He sent out he was the one that started this thing of Chabad houses, not exactly Chabad houses, but there were emissaries all over, synagogues in Morocco, especially in Tunisia. That by means of that was drawn out, was spread out the idea teachings of Hasidut to the furthest away places. Like it says, you should know the God of your father. You should know, you should feel godliness. They merited speedily and immediately to that the whole world will only be occupied in knowing God alone. Therefore, all the Jewish people, it says, will be big wise men, and they'll know secret things, and they will understand what God understands according to the ability of man. That's the end of the Rambam. Like it says, Himala ha'oretz de'as Hashem, the world will be filled with the awareness, with the feeling of God, just like water fills the ocean. And we said that's two levels. All the details will feel God, and also in a general way will feel the level of godliness, which is totally above any details, above the spiritual. So it should be that immediately, how do you say, that immediately and right now, really, on this day, the Rebbe is speaking, what, this is 33 years ago, on this Shabbat Kodesh, Shabbat, Holy Shabbat, Parshat Shlach, it should actually be fulfilled. The advertisement, the news, we'll get the news of the Parsha of this week. Moses announced to them they're going into the land of Israel. And in the end of our Haftorah, that God put the land of Israel into our hands. And all of those inhabitants that don't belong here are all afraid in front of us. Especially that now we are on the last moments of exile. Immediately, all of the Jewish people will come to the land of Israel, and the land of Israel will be divided up by God himself. And the land of Israel will be owned only by the Jewish people. And we will not give away, God forbid, even 1 inch from the land of the Holy Land to the non-Jews. This is like in 1991, whatever, and they were making all these peace things with Camp David and all these other ridiculous, insane things that we see the result of it now, right? Even immediately when they started making these agreements, immediately they saw it was a failure, and they couldn't go back on it. They couldn't go back on it. And the reason they couldn't go back on it was because there were these people in the Israeli government that they were insisting that maybe it's not working now, but it's going to work. You'll see, it's going to work. And it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse by taking the Holy Land and saying that it's not holy. Is that's the biggest, the biggest embarrassment, the shock, spit in the face to the King of the universe, to God himself. It says, therefore, what's going to be in the future is not that we're going to give away, God forbid, or even think about giving away any part of the Holy Land. The Holy Land belongs to God. It's not ours to give away. But God put us into our hands that we call the shots. Since Moses, we call the shots. All the Jewish people by Moshiach is going, which by the way, the Maimonides says, and it's very interesting that all these people, that the religious Zionists, they all skip over this Rambam. It's very interesting. Very interesting. There's books that are written about how now is the beginning, that Zionism is the beginning of the redemption, and that, this person, he was the one who started in the Zionist convention was really, and yes, we have some questions of this, and all the Jews are going to come here, but the Maimonides says clearly that only Mashiach is going to bring all the Jews back to Israel. You want to live in Israel? Wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to live in Israel. It's a commandment to live in Israel. Israel is a holy place. But don't think that politics of any sort or not even politics, anything in the world is going to bring the Jews back to Israel other than Mashiach. Mashiach is the only one that's going to bring all the Jews back to Israel. And we see that now, due to the whole Zionist idea, that not only are Jews not coming to Israel, the Israelis are running away from Israel. And not only is the land of Israel whole, but we're giving away parts of it, and it's just endangering us. And people are getting killed because of our own lack of holy Jewish identity. The idea of Mashiach is that all the Jewish people will come to all of the land of Israel. It'll be shlemos bishlemos, complete Jewish nation and the complete Israel. The land of the 10 nations we're going to receive that God promised Abraham, the land of 10 nations, right? And in fact, Joshua only conquered 7. In the future, we'll get 3 nations also, the Keni and the Kenizi and the Kadmoni. 3 nations. It says that's Moab and Amnon, what is it? Moab, Amnon, and Edom will get their lands. Then Israel will be divided into 13 tribes. The land of Israel itself will all the Jews will come to Israel, the Holy Land, and they'll all come to Jerusalem, the holy city, Jerusalem was not divided among the tribes. It belonged to everybody. And from there we'll come to the holy temple, and from there we'll sacrifice the Thanksgiving offering that all the Jewish people came from the exile of Galus. That's one of the things you bring a korban todah, a Thanksgiving offering, is if you get out of jail. All the Jewish people are in exile, even the Jews, and maybe especially the Jews that are living in Israel, are in the biggest exile of all. Because we're here, and we're, how did the Rebbe say? They're taking over the house and they're kicking out the owner. We're in Israel and they're trying to. It says, we'll offer up the offerings, we'll give wine and song, and especially a new song. Not now, we're saying, it says Shira Chadasha, when the Jewish people went over the sea, the Yam Suf, they sang a song. But it says, saying a song was Shira Chadasha. It says in language feminine. That's, in other words, we sang from below to above. In the future, it's going to be a shir masculine. God is going to sing the song. We're going to feel Lachshan Zachar. There'll be a redemption, that there won't be afterward any exile. And we'll change, like the Jewish people, they're compared to the moon, and it always changes. But God is compared to the sun, and it never changes. So it says the future, there's going to be a song that's never going to change. We'll learn a new Torah. Namely, what? We'll feel that the Torah, every letter of the Torah comes from God. And every commandment we'll feel is holy, in a way that people won't even have to learn anymore. They won't have to be taught. Everyone will know God, because God and the Torah are one. When we feel that God is creating the world, we'll see that really God is creating the world from the Torah. So that's this new unity that we'll feel. And even more, and that's the main thing, that all of this should be done actually, and it should be done immediately, and it should be done really right now. And so what does it mean? It means that we have to, when we learn the Torah, and we should learn more Torah, have in mind that this is the Torah of God, and He's giving it to me right now, and I'm bringing godliness into the world in order to bring unity. And anytime you see another Jew, no matter what he does, no matter he's sitting in Congress and saying, you have to let the Hamas win, or it's a Jew. And if it's a Jew, so you have to find some merit to him. If there's no other merit, then listen, eventually Moshiach is going to come and make these people realize who they are. And He's going to bring them all to the land of Israel. Don't pay attention to what it seems, to appearances, to the essence. And the essence is that every Jew is the son of God. And from that we'll come to another essence, that the essence of every human being is that every human being is good, made in the image of God. That's what God said to Noah. And we'll come to a higher level of unity, that the world is good. We'll see that the world is a very, very good place, not just the land of Israel. That's what God said when He created the world. That God said, so everything is, and He said it was very good. And that's what all these false religions are based on, that the world is not good and man is not good, man is sinners and everything. Those are all lies. This world is infinitely good, and human beings are also good, very good. And this will all be revealed when the Jewish people are united by Moshiach, learning the Torah together in the Holy Land with the Holy Temple. All right, let's do the Yom Yom. Wonderful, wonderful. Stop the share.